Hey, what's up, Ninerland? What's up, Empire? Um, I'm not sure if y'all can hear me or not, but let's do this. This is one of my first lives. Actually, it's my second. I'm gonna talk Niners. Each day this week, I'm gonna come with a different live for a different subject. And today, I've chose to go Niners because that's what I know most about. So I'm gonna talk Niners. So let's do that. Let's talk Niners. So last year we started setting the foundation. We started getting a lot of key players. We started designing and creating the philosophy, the game plan that we really want to run. We ended up getting our coach. We got a pretty good general manager. We had a pretty good draft. Uh, and we had players that really stepped up and played good positions. This year, we have a foundation set. This year was all about improving that foundation. We have our franchise quarterback. We have some key parts put in place in order for a successful season. But to be honest, there was a few little kind of minor details that we needed to really work on to tune in order to be what we wanted to be. So let's go over some of the first things they did. First thing they did is they went and they decided to start re-signing their own players. Okay, they started re-signing a lot of their special teams players, a lot of the guys that, a lot of really good special teams players on top of that. Some special teams coverage units, guys that are pretty good about stopping opponents from getting a large yardage, things like that. So that was the first thing they did. They started bringing back some of those, and that also brought a lot of depth with them. So that was a big key to the beginning of this off season, was really creating depth and creating that special teams coverage unit. So then they go into free agency right before the draft, and they start, not really overspending, but they started getting guys that were key to what they wanted to do. They started getting offensive linemen to really replace and fill holes that we had. So they went out. They got the Richburg at center. He's a really good center. He's had the ability. He's had the history of even competing really solidly against Nadake Asu. Okay, so then you get this guy in place. Kilgore's out. Kilgore was good, but he spent a lot of time on IR. And he was literally one hit away from missing the entire season again. So we got a solid center. Next, we went out and we got Jonathan Cooper, who immediately brings continuity, experience, and talent to that offensive guard position. You add in Garnett, who's last year or the year before was a first round, or the year before was a first round pick, has yet really to see the thing. See any time he's slimming down. You add in some of the other key pieces that we got, including McGlitchery, the new guy that we got from Notre Dame. Suddenly, that offensive line is looking pretty good. We have depth with Gillian. We have depth with Beatles. We have depth on top of that to be a solid offensive line. So what we know is, one, we continued to bring back our special teams coverage unit, and then we invested money into our offensive line to protect our big-time quarterback. From there, we invested in our secondary because honestly, our secondary had some gaping holes. And when we wanted to go out, we wanted to get a cornerback that not only fit the system, but excelled in a similar system or knew the system like the back of his hand. So we went out and we didn't just sign a really good cornerback, but we ended up signing Richard Sherman, who is an ideal fit for the defense that was essentially created for him and the guys of that Seattle defense. So now you got Richard Sherman, you got Colbert, and you got Witherspoon, along with Tart coming back off injury, along with some of the other secondary members, and you got the makings of a decent secondary there. And that was before the draft. Then we went on and we started bringing back a couple more of our players. We started investing in a couple other guys, but for the most part, they were all minor deals. We really didn't overspend on anyone. We just wanted to bring in talent that we needed. So then, with the offensive line set, the secondary set, the special teams coverage set, we went to the draft. And right before the draft, we ended up getting Jerick McKinnon, the running back from Minnesota. And let me tell you, he is an ideal fit for the Shanahan system. He's a guy that can catch passes in the flat. He jukes, he jives, he can run around defenses, specifically on the left side where you got Staley and Cooper there. With Richburg there, you're going to have some gaping holes on that left side. Now you got Breida coming in as your number 2 running back. To add to that, you got Joe Williams, who's supposed to be pretty good coming back from injury, who's going to be added into that. Now you got the makings of a solid running core to go with that offensive line, to go with that good quarterback. Now you add in your running back, Juszczyk, your fullback, who can catch who's already been labeled the offensive weapon. He's not just a fullback, but he's an offensive weapon, which means he can run, he can catch, he can bully his way through for a few yards. He's, that's a key to that offense right there. Now, with that being said, keep in mind that Jimmy Garoppolo has yet to even throw to Pierre Garçon. So you're getting a number 1 type wide receiver, specifically a third down, big body wide receiver coming off of injury that our star quarterback has yet to even throw a pass to. So immediately that's going to make us better. Marquise Goodwin on the other side was having a career year. He was proving that he wasn't more than just a deep threat. So then you add in Trent Taylor as your number 3 slot, who excelled under Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo made him look phenomenal. Okay, so we had our receivers in place. We knew that our first top 3 receivers are going to be there. But then we went out and we got another receiver in the second round from Washington. We got a receiver that honestly could compete with Trent Taylor at that spot. I think Taylor's still better, but instantly what's his name from Washington comes in and gives us a dynamic Pettis, Dante Pettis. He comes in from Washington and he gives us a dynamic kick return / punt returner. Even if he never even sees receiving the pass, you have a guy that can literally break one at any moment on special teams. But we didn't stop there. We ended up getting at least 2 or 3 of these guys that at any moment could. So our special teams coverage is ideal. Our offensive line is ideal. Our quarterback's ideal. Our running back situation's looking great. Our receivers are looking solid. And now you're looking at a special teams return unit that looks insane. So we're balancing a very solid team. And then we go to defense. Now let's talk about this defense. We've invested a lot of picks over the last few years on that defensive line. With Armstead and Buckner, Solomon Thomas, we have the makings of a solid young line. We just got to stay healthy. We got to continue maturing, continue getting better, and continue playing as a team. If they can do that, add in, what's his name now, Arriaga or whatever his name is that we got. You add him into the mix. You add in some of the key people that we got this year, through either the draft or the free agency, and we should be doing pretty well. I don't understand why we got rid of Dumerville, because he was one of our best defensive threats on the line. But hey, I'm okay if we can get extra sacks. If Solomon Thomas has an entire offseason workout and he's not busy at school, and if Buckner is healthy and Armstead comes back healthy, and then you add in Earl Mitchell and you add in some of the other key pieces to that defense, and you got the makings of a decent defensive line. And our system makes it even easier for that defensive line. So that's the big part. So we already know the secondary is good. We already know Tart brings us a strong safety in the box that's an ideal fit. We already know that we got Colbert back there that really excelled at free safety. We got Jimmy Ward coming back. We have K1 there. We have a few other. We got Sherman in the back. I mean, this secondary is going to look good. To me, the biggest question mark is still at linebacker, especially with Reuben Foster's legal issues. The biggest issue to me is what are we going to do to stop the tight ends? What are we going to do in the middle of the field in the flat? And, getting a guy like Malcolm Smith back, that's going to help. Okay. I know he's not Reuben Foster. I know he's not Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman. But here's a guy that knows your defense very well. He's missed the entire season because of injury. So he's going to want to play. He's going to want to get on, and he's going to want to have something to prove. So he gets on the field. Now you're going to have a few other pieces in there. Honestly, you're going to end up makeshifting linebackers. I feel like we're going to have an entire season of a makeshift linebacking core. But keep in mind, this is still a 5 or 6 year fix, and we're barely on year 2. So, if we can keep what we got, continue building this roster, I think we can still win 10, 11, 12 games this season, and I think we can still be in a good position to continue building our linebacking core from there. I do think that our biggest weakness is going to be at linebacker. I think that's going to be a huge weakness for us. But providing Malcolm Smith can come back to any kind of level as to what he was before he got hurt, I'm not too worried about it. I think he can actually excel in our defense. I think he's done it before. I think he knows it very well. And I think he might be up for a good bounce back season. And with that said, I think our defense is still very capable of being at least a top 10, maybe a little outside of top 10, but our offense is going to be insane. Our offense is going to be top of the line, top of the league. I think we rival some of the best offenses in the league this year. You add in our special teams coverage, you add in our special teams return, and suddenly we're going to win a lot of field position battles. We're going to be starting with better field position than the majority of our opponents. And then when you have our offense that can literally score at will, now you have the makings of at least a philosophy, a game plan. Then you add in a young defense that wants to be aggressive. You add in a young defense that wants to hit hard, wants to really set the tone. And it's led by a veteran player or two. It's led by really, it's going to continue to get better. And that's where we're at. This defense of the 49ers defense is going to continue to get better. And if it can get anywhere close to the level that the offense is capable of, there's not a lot of teams that are competing with us this year. And that's a simple fact. If Buckner can come on and get 9-10 sacks this year, which he's capable of, if Solomon Thomas can come on and give you 6 or 7 sacks, which he's capable of, if Armstead can come off injury and give you 4 or 5 sacks, these are all things that are going to put a lot of pressure on us. We already know our defense is designed to stop the run. So that automatically puts offenses and opponents in a lot of 3rd and longs. Pin the ears back, go after those quarterbacks, let those quarterbacks throw secondary. And when it's all said and done, we're either getting interceptions, causing incompletions, or making them punt to us. And again, that leads right back to punting into a very solid punt returner. I love what John Lynch is doing right now with this team. It's fun to watch them come together. I can't wait for the season, to be honest with you. I think we are going to be a solid team. I think the Rams and us are going to compete for the NFC West. But the problem with the Rams is they spend a lot of money in their secondary. They have a few weapons on the offensive weapons, but for the most part, they mortgaged a lot of future in order to win now. And I'm not so convinced they're going to win now. I'm not convinced because they already got a few hotheads in there, people that are already chippy with each other. They've already got, you can sense a lot of penalties coming from that team. I don't see the Rams being as good as everybody thinks. I think there'll be a lot of pressure on that offense to get back to where it was. And I think that defense will have even more pressure and it'll be too aggressive. You got an aggressive defensive coordinator, and you got a lot of players on that team that are just simply aggressive players that get a lot of penalties. So I'm not really worried about the Rams. And honestly, I can see us skating into the playoffs. I can see us worrying about Minnesota. I can see us worrying about Philadelphia. And after that, I'm not sure who else San Francisco should really have to worry about. Well, that's my live. I do believe that San Francisco is building towards a solid future. They're building towards a future that can potentially be now, and there are some key pieces there. So with that being said, I'd love to know what everybody thinks. Please come find me on Google Plus, YouTube, Twitter. I'm pretty much on everything. Just come find me. We'll talk Niners all day, every day. So with that being said, let's go Niners. Have a great day, guys. Peace. Go Niners.